Hi, welcome to Down the Track on InView TV. My name's Bruce Mott, I'm your host, and on tonight's show we have Andy Lopez. Andy is the co-owner of Out There Productions, or OTP. OTP manages events such as Summer Nats, the Rocky Nats, Motivation, Motorex, and of course the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. Recently, along with Nathan Prendergast, Andy has announced the launching of the NDRC, or the National Drag Racing Championship. Lots of questions to ask Andy about this. Apparently, it's going to be a unifying force in Australian drag racing. Let's bring him on now. Lots to talk about to see what this means for the sport here in Australia. Andy Lopez, welcome to Down the Track on NView TV. How are you?
Good, great to be here.
Look, we've got a lot to talk about. I mentioned in the opening to the show that Andy Lopez, you're the co-owner of OTP, Out There Productions, who manages events such as the Summer Nats, Motorex, Motivation, and of course the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. Now
Correct.
yourself and Nathan Prendergast have announced this new NDRC, the National Drag Racing Championship. How did that come about? And tell us all about it.
Okay, well, so I'll start with what the National Drag Racing Championship is about. It's sort of the name says what's in the box. It's a national unified series that will run across Group One and Sportsman category racing. The championship from Group One point of view will run over 11 rounds. There'll be 6 rounds headlined by the Burson Top Fuel Championship, 4 rounds headlined by the Nitro Funny Car Championship, ending up with a combined grand final at the Winter Nationals in 2024. There will, at all of those events, will include Sportsman Championship racing. I think people have probably seen our plan to do Sportsman Championship racing in Eastern and Western Conference formats. Conference championships are pretty well established worldwide when dealing with sports that are played over massive countries or racing over massive countries like Australia. That Eastern and Western Conference was designed to bring parity to sportsman racers who can travel a certain amount and that sort of thing, but maybe not necessarily all across the country. And looking at a national grand final at the Bend. So Sportsman, Eastern and Western Conference, combined grand final at the Bend, Group 1, 11 rounds, 6 headlined by the Burson Top Fuel Championship, 4 by the Nitro Funny Car Championship, with the grand final at the Winter Nationals. The NDRC is managed by myself and Nathan Prendergast. So I'm sure everyone knows Nathan. He's the best motorsport television guru in Australia, and he would have to be in the top 5 in the world. He's the best at what he does, and he's brought a brand new and elevated broadcast coverage to the Top Fuel Championship. That has led to us announcing yesterday a national free-to-air television deal with Channel 7, who will be the home of drag racing. It was really exciting to do that, and that's very much based on the success that we've had with the Burson Top Fuel Championship and the excellence of drag racing coverage that Nathan brings. So I hope that's sort of like the National Drag Racing Championship in a nutshell. It's a unified championship. It seeks to set a platform for drag racing, both as a live experience and a broadcast package that will continue to elevate the sport that everyone involved in drag racing loves, take it to its next evolution in terms of popularity. Our mission statement is to make drag racing Australia's favourite motorsport. That's our goal. That's what we believe it should be. And working together with our one-way forward vision, that's what we think we'll be able to do.
Look, it sounds fantastic. It's a great vision. How you explain it's really good. I guess you didn't quite answer the question, how did it come about? But maybe you can
Oh,
answer
yeah.
with my next one, is that
Yeah.
how did it come about and who have you consulted in the creation of the NDRC?
Okay, so it came about through, like, it's, without harking too much on the past, like obviously there have been, a number of championships running, and obviously ourselves with the Burson Top Fuel Championship and 400 Thunder Summit Series, the Aeroflow Sportsman Championship, etc. So it really came out of a conversation that started very sort of casually about 8 weeks ago with with some of the team at Aeroflow and the Nitro Funny Cars about talking about wanting to be more unified and how racing nationally should work. As I said, there were sort of casual conversations. We also caught up with other stakeholders in the sport, other Group 1 and so on. I think everyone had wanted to kind of race together. And I'll keep saying that thing. Everyone wanted to find one way forward, and lots of good people in the sport. This is what people wanted. So those conversations happened. It evolved for Nathan and I quite quickly into this is what we think would be a great thing to do, this National Drag Racing Championship concept. And then we started consulting with the people that we probably needed to talk to first about whether this could be a reality. And that was probably only 4 to 6 weeks ago. So it's come together in a fairly short period of time. I think there was real clarity of purpose for us. I've only been involved in drag racing at this level for about 18 months, and I've loved every minute of it, met some amazing people, fallen in love with the sport at all levels. It's, seeing the junior dragsters and the interaction with Group 1 and sportsmen, just people like, with this, we talk about like particularly, and I mean this with great love and respect, everyday people doing champion things on the racetrack. And that's what's so brilliant about, one of the things that's brilliant about drag racing. Anyway, I don't need to tell you what's great about drag racing, but we've sort of realised we're really passionate about and wanted to do something good for the sport. And when we started consulting about the idea and a way to get this to happen, it was met pretty favourably.
Well, look, I mean, you said that it's come together in 6-8 weeks. That's an unbelievable time frame. I thought we were talking about 6 to 8 months. So what has been the reaction? Let's talk about Group 1, for instance. What's been their reaction to it?
I think, look, very, very well. Like we've been racing and working alongside Group 1 categories all through the Top Fuel Championship. And, with more, at varying levels, people have come and match race. Door Slam has run the Australian Drag Racing Championship with us. Top Bike has followed to as many events as they can. Pro Stock's been there and thereabouts at events. And that's been a really good experience for us. We've talked with, we've had Pro Mod racing at our events and so on. So we already had a pretty genial relationship with a lot of those Group 1 categories. And I think that, what we put forward was, again, it's not like we've reinvented the wheel, and we're aware of that. Like, this is, again, just bringing something forward that people want. So the reaction's been really good. We've been as consultative as we could be, given sometimes with these projects, you need to keep things close in order to get well advanced, so that the fear and sometimes negativity that comes around new things didn't overtake the good thing that was actually happening. So
sure,
we consulted
a bit beforehand.
Yeah, and we also wanted to demonstrate that we'd thought about it, that there was meat on the bone, like that. That if we came and said, "Oh, hey, let's all race together," blah blah blah, and then had nothing behind it, that's just a vision statement. Everything that we've released, and I'll probably be really clear, like, this broadcast deal was done before we announced the championship. All right, we haven't just done it this last week. We did the work already, so we got a broadcast deal on the proviso that we could deliver the championship. Sure. But we did that work. We talked as much as we felt good about talking with other stakeholders, and there were a couple of real key ones to get on board with the idea, and we did that, and then we felt we were in a position to announce. And part of it was, honestly, was about being respectful to other people as well. The worst thing that we could have done was come out and blindsided organisations that that this announcement would have an impact on.
So you've spoken to Group 1. You've got a positive reaction.
Spoken to Group 1.
Sportsman. Yeah. What's happened with Sportsman?
So we didn't have much of a chance to sort of talk with Sportsman Racing. We talked with some Sportsman racers in a very ad hoc fashion about our ideas around conference, racing, conference championship racing, and to get an idea of what would be important and what came next with those discussions. And this was the absolute intent was to bring everyone along for the journey, so that it wasn't just about Group 1, but there are a lot less Group 1 races and categories to talk to. If that makes so, from a pragmatic and practical sense, that was kind of a more straightforward thing. We consulted quietly about our ideas around sportsmen and tried to keep it pretty, and not tried to, we kept a really open mind and thought, well, we need to get to a point where we announce what we're doing and then show the work and the detail behind what we plan to do for sportsmen as well. And we didn't want to, again, shake the universe for sportsmen. Racing in a conference championship format is not revolutionary, but it does provide a pathway to a grand final. There are lots of categories and lots of things about sportsmen that we are yet to learn, but we have got people on the team who can help us with that, and we're also really open and open in dialogue, and that sort of, I think we'll demonstrate that over the next period of time.
All right, and we'll come back to sportsmen because I've got a few questions that have come through from the sportsman group that I want to ask you. 400 Thunder, they're prepared to retire their series, so they've obviously given you a positive feedback, and then we hear things that, is this series just a 400 Thunder 2.0 sort of thing? So
no, and I say this with I say this with due respect. It's not. It is absolutely not. We built this championship, built the concept around it, developed it in our business with Nathan, myself, and the rest of the team. It was not about us merging or taking on board 400 Thunder or anything else. And I've just got to reiterate, I say that with respect because I'm not here to talk negatively about anyone. We met with 400 Thunder, their board, to tell them this is what we are going out with, and that the sentiment of the races was that this was what was wanted. And we got there and we asked for their buy-in as individuals who love drag racing, right? So I don't care what the politics are about 400 Thunder versus anything else. I'll just put that aside and let's look at human beings who, no matter what someone's opinion might be about someone else, they all care about drag racing. That business has put time and effort into the sport, so they deserved our respect and the dignity of being spoken to about what was going to come on, about what was coming. So we didn't want it to be divisive. So we met with 400 Thunder to say, hey, this is what's happening. How do you feel? How do we message this in a way that is clear that the NDRC is new, it's different, it's going in its direction. 400 Thunder Championship will retire, but its heritage and its contribution, the championships and so forth, will continue to be respected. That's not like a PC answer. And we were given a very fair hearing and a very warm response to what we did, and an agreement that demonstrated that those guys had in mind what was best for the sport. They felt this was what they really wanted, like to see a national drag racing championship, and this is what was there. This is what now sat in front of them. So they put their own agendas and their own objectives aside to let us have the clear air and run forward.
Sure. Is it fair to say, just given by what you said there, where you're going into these stakeholders and saying, this is not what we're proposing, this is what we're doing? Yeah,
it's true. We at some point you just got to, we backed what we were doing. We felt we had enough support from the racing groups to do it. It wasn't aggressive or anything else. It's just let's just be purposeful. We're going to do this because it's right. It's the right thing, and it'll be a good thing for the sport and so on. And I think the fact that, myself and my team, we haven't got that history in drag racing, but we are good at what we do, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm proud of what our team can do, and just say trust. There's a bit of trust that we're asking for as well, but it's trust based on the fact that we have we've gone out and delivered. We've
Yeah,
put on
sure.
12
And you've
or
and you've
12
certainly
rounds of top
delivered.
fuel.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from what OTP delivered in other genres of sports and things, what they've delivered
Yeah,
in the burst and sort of parts Australian Top Fuel Championship has been amazing, and I don't think anyone's going to deny
yeah,
that. What about the
yeah.
last two major stakeholders of all this, Andra and IHR Australia? What's their response?
So, look, I think cautious and stuff like that, which is okay. The Andrews very protective of their history and heritage and sportsman racing, and I know all racing, and I respect that, and absolutely, and part of our responsibility. They're a different setup to IHRA. They've got members and so on. So part of our responsibility is to make them feel comfortable about the journey. And you know, my business has worked alongside Andrew for a long time before we got into serious drag racing. Drag racing's been a part of our other events for 6 or 7 years. Red Centre Nats, we do that awesome Rocky Nats, the street drags we've done with Andrew and stuff up there as well. So I just kind of sort of have asked them to say, look, work with us on your concerns, but trust us as good people in business, and I said, us, you know what we're about. And the same with IHRA, in a sense, like we had a conversation with IHRA at the Nitro Champ, so a few days before we did the announcement. That was positive. Again, from a sanctioning point of view, there are, and I think quite rightly from both organisations, just cautiousness, wanting to make sure things are done properly and that sort of thing, and that's fine. Like we're pretty transparent. So, the dual sanctioning thing is still a bit of a, it's a thing, right?
I guess
It's the thing.
they're protecting what they've already got in place, and especially if
Yeah.
someone like Andrew's got their Summit Sportsman Series in place, they need to look after the best interests of that.
Yeah.
All right, I'll come back to Sportsman in a minute. Just a couple of things that I've come up with, just interested in my head. The
Sure.
naming conventions, right? So we've got. Is it going to be like, for instance, Top Fuel Funny Car, or is it going to go back to the old Nitro Funny Car
So,
convention?
so the championship will be Nitro Funny Car Championship, and we worked that through with Morris McMillan and the team, and everyone's pretty comfortable about what is a very tough sounding brand.
Yeah,
Like and given how this series is being panned out, like our marketing and comms guys, like we love the uniqueness of the products and that sort of thing. So that's a real selling point. We talk about like Nitro Funny Cars. When you say NFC, it sounds a bit like UFC, and those cars do look like they want to punch you in the face sometimes, which is pretty cool. So like that's great. There are other naming conventions that we're working through with the categories to sort of really, it's kind of like the majority of one category might prefer to be called this, like pro alcohol. From what we've been told by them, love the pro alcohol name. For us, the names, and I don't know, I could be a bit naive, the names are important to the races. So if what's important to the races is what they should be called, and there won't always be 100% agreement, but in the end, it's an important step. It's a part of the puzzle of making everyone feel included. So we're just treading our way through it. But I think we're all pretty comfortable with the way that the naming conventions are being done.
and so Nitro Funny Car, and I'm glad it's being called that again. Will that race over 1,000 foot or a quarter mile?
It's racing over a quarter mile. That's what the current rules and sanctioning provides for, and it's really a decision between sanctioning the races and that sort of thing, and we are there to facilitate. So we support the guys in what they're doing, and
yeah. I did reach out to some groups and said, is there any questions I can propose to you tonight? The majority of the questions come back from sportsman races. I guess they could be summed up in these two questions, so I'll bring them up now.
Sure.
And a lot of this is based around, from what I'm getting, is a cost factors to the races, right? So this has come from Drag Racing Australia, a group that's got 20,000 odd members, and they've asked, will you work with the sanctioning bodies, Andrew and IHRA, to integrate items such as tech inspections? They're not just saying tech inspections solely, but
I
that's an example, yeah?
yeah,
Meaning each body will
yeah.
recognise the others so we don't have to duplicate effort and cost.
Absolutely, we will. And I think that's a really important thing, that if there are going to be two sanctioning bodies, which there are, I think it's sort of our responsibility and also the responsibility of the sanctioning bodies to go, how do we, they're competing in a business environment, right? So how do we make our product at the top of the field? And if we are going to, and if the if the racing environment as it sits today allows for two sanctioning bodies, but tracks lock themselves in with the sanctioning body, which is therefore creating problems of choice and that sort of thing. It's really beholden on the sanctioning bodies, and the sanctioning bodies that say, so the sanctioning body, I should say, that says, look, we're happy to recognise tech inspections, or using that as an example, are the ones who are going to be providing the best service to their customers, which are the racers. So it's absolutely our agenda to work with the guys in the sanctioning bodies to say it's time to make it easy for the racers and that sort of thing. So we'll see what they do.
All right, so as
Is that
simple
is
answer
that a
is
fair
yes,
enough?
you will.
Is it?
Yes, you said you're going to work with them and see what you can achieve.
Yeah.
Second one, so once again, sportsman races, they're saying that the proposal seems a bit light on in details. So how can the
Yep.
sportsman racers learn more, and importantly,
Yes.
how can they engage with the NDRC to be a part of building the series going forward?
Cool. And I would certainly agree with the first point. It is a bit light on the detail for sportsmen, but the detail that we've been able to release is the stuff that we were confident about and that we knew that we could achieve, if that makes sense. So the conference racing model, the national grand final model, is, as in a general principle, is what we're working to. So the details that need to come out are the actual dates and calendar for the Eastern and Western Conference. Half of those will be inside the NDRC main events, and half of them will be out at regional tracks and so forth. So it will be a model that's quite similar, that's been around in the past and that sort of thing, except just better integrated, right? So that, that sportsman championship racing will be happening alongside Group 1 championship racing in a really well structured way that leads to a conference championship and then a grand final. So some of the work that we haven't released has been done. Some of the stuff needed to be sorted out with various stakeholders. Like, we're working with Andrew about the Summit Series. We're talking with venues. We'll be talking with venues on the east that we're looking at being part of the 400 Thunder Series. So it'll just take a bit of time to get there, but it's not going to be anything markedly different. So in terms of where do you learn more, that information, sportsmen will be just an important communication part for our website and FAQs and everything else, and we will present that clear plan for sportsmen. There will be a person engaged inside the business to sort of be the contact for sportsman racer. We've talked about the advisory committee on our website already, so we'll start getting those things sorted out and set up in terms of. And that's a good model for engagement. I know Andrew also has racer forums and this side of thing too. So we need to set a place where sportsmen can engage, but it is through that committee that will be established pretty quick. What our goal for sportsman racing is to continue to elevate it, to continue to make it really rewarding for the guys and girls who are already racing, to continue to elevate it as a pathway into the sport. We think that the Sportsman Championship Series could do with better integrated marketing and promotion across the series. And this isn't taking anything away from the regional tracks that promote it, but to bring that sort of weight about sportsman racing as a championship series, so that whether you're racing in Mildura or you're racing at the Winter Nationals, those events and that sportsman's racing is getting promoted and highlighted. Now, we're not going to be doing TV at the standalone events. It's not economically viable, but we will be doing a lot more work with the regional tracks, not to take anything away from them, but to add value, to help drive more bums on seats. to work with them about, do they want to add in Group 1 match racing or something, whatever it might be, to help them grow those events so that they continue to do well and encourage racers and audiences to attend.
So obviously there's a lot you still to work through. So what are the next steps for the NDRC?
Okay, so next steps for the NDRC is, so the first big thing is our calendar announcement next week. So I think that's on May 26th. It's going to be announced down at the Bend, and then we'll be pushing out all the detail behind that. So again, that calendar had been done before we even announced our first round. We've worked really well with the venues in those four, across that 11-round series, I should say, to come up with a championship that works. We've worked really diligently on how to best allocate Group 1 racing across those 11 events, right? So that it's clear from the beginning of the season. Each Group 1 category has a championship that's agreed to and identified at the start of the season. Again, we're not shifting the world, but we've been really careful about how we curate that program so that it matches the need for the overall event to help get people excited about being there. We've got two awesome, I'm going to call them headline acts, and I mean that with due respect to everyone, but we've got Nitro Funny Car and the Burson Top Fuel Championships. Big, exciting race, and we've got awesome Group 1 categories that will program across those 11 events to match probably a lot where the bulk of drivers are, where they like racing traditionally, the number of rounds that each category can support, from a racing group. A Group 1 category might be able to do 8 rounds. Another might only be able to do 5.
Sure.
So we have already done that consultation and that work. We've matched it carefully across the calendar to keep building a really good show at every event, right? And I think we come up with something. Pretty cool. The Group 1 categories that we've spoken to thus far, and it's pretty. I think by now it's actually all of them have sort of gone, yep, that's good. Yep, we can do it. There's always going to be challenges with turnaround times and that sort of stuff, but we really tried to make it work for the racing group. And then over time, we might be able to build this out and make it a bigger series. But we just want to get it sustainable, get it right get it right over this next calendar period.
Well, look, Andy, anything that brings the sports together, in my mind, is a good thing. So if you're unifying the sport, it's a great initiative. Look, you're going to have your challenges, we know, from within the sport, from outside of the sport. But look, I do think that OTP is probably the best credentialed organisation to take drag racing forward. You're going to have a big challenge, but I do think something that if anyone's going to take us forward, as I said, I think OTP is best credentialed to do that.
I appreciate that.
One thing, go on, yeah.
One thing I wanted to say, and it's something that's come up a couple of times, and I get this, we've been asked about commitment and that sort of thing to the journey, right? So I think it's important. I want to say that, as a team and as a group, we are really committed to this. We're no flash in the pan. We're no fly by night. I like telling the story when I bought the Summit Ants and I walked in there on the first Saturday morning and I'd never been to the event before. This is back in 2010. I thought, what on earth have I done? I've come from all these nice big music festivals and sporting events, and I'm in this mad car scene. And 14 years later, we're there, we're doing it, we love it. We've moved so much of our business attention to this, and we're doing automotive festivals all around the country. Nathan and I didn't set out to necessarily do this with drag racing, but it's evolved. It's the right thing to do, and we take the responsibility and that really seriously. We like it.
I do think all the challenges you've had with all your other festivals, drag racing is going to be the biggest challenge you've ever faced.
Well, we'll see how we go. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I reckon as long as it goes two ways, though. I think that drag racing needs to see itself as awesome. It needs to see itself as being something worthy of enjoying. I have a joke that The problem with drag racing is that so many sentences about drag racing start with the words "the problem is,"
Hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
just got to get
Yeah.
out of the language. Like, racing is fun, drag racing is awesome as a spectacle. Let's enjoy it. We're in. I just say to people, give us some time as well. Like, no one's perfect. Be constructive and positive in the dialogue around this sport, and we will become Australia's favourite motorsport. It's like, I believe it. It's,
Is that the
one way
desired
forward, man.
result? Is that the end result? Become Australia's
That is
favourite
it.
motorsport? Yeah.
But it's like, you look at drag racing has got such fantastic participation levels, but it just has struggled in some parts. Like, it's like I say, full of great people. It's an excellent experience. It's made for the bloody short attention span generation. There's a win light every bloody 2 or 3 minutes. Like, what more could you want from a motorsport activity? Sit there in the grandstand, I can see the start line, the finish line, I can walk in the pits, meet drivers, look at all these awesome cars. Like, sometimes it looks as sketchy as hell. You got guys on 2 wheels that strap themselves to a bloody missile, throw themselves down the track. You got fire-breathing monsters. Like,
Yeah.
what's not to love?
Yeah. Look,
Like, what's not
Andy,
to love?
it's been fantastic having you on the show. I love your passion. I love what you're trying to achieve, you and OTP and Nathan Pendergrass. As you said, you've got runs on the board. You've come in with a fresh outlook, a totally different approach to maybe the way drag racing's done it in the past. And I love your passion, and I look forward to witnessing this new era in drag racing. I do think it's going to be exciting going forward. And thanks so much for being on the show.
It's great. Looking forward to it ourselves.